The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of the first human vessel breaching Earth's atmosphere. Ambassador Zethkri of the Altarian Collective watched the holographic display with growing dread as the primitive craft, little more than metal tubes with explosive propulsion, somehow managed to achieve stable orbit. "This cannot be happening," whispered Counselor Vexara, her crystalline form flickering with anxiety. The probability calculations were absolute. Nothing could survive on that nightmare world, let alone develop spaceflight. Earth hung in the center of the chamber like a blue-green accusation. The Galactic Survey had classified it as a Class 2 death world over 3 millennia ago, the highest possible threat rating. Its surface was dominated by a corrosive gas called oxygen that could dissolve metal, gravity wells that would crush most species, weather patterns so violent they could level cities, and the life forms. The less said about Earth's biological horrors, the better. Jack Morrison floated in the cramped cockpit of humanity's first interstellar probe, completely unaware that his species had just triggered the greatest panic in galactic history. He adjusted his communications array and spoke into his headset. "Mission Control, this is Explorer 1. We've achieved stable orbit and are beginning deep space scans. Daisy, you getting this back home?" Light years away, Dr. Daisy Chen smiled from her position at Houston Mission Control. "Copy that, Jack. All telemetry looks good from our end. You're making history up there." In the council chambers, the translation algorithms had finally decoded the human transmissions. The assembled delegates listened in mounting horror as the humans casually discussed their first steps into the galaxy. "They're calling it recreational exploration," stammered the Zephyrian representative, his tentacles writhing with distress. They described the journey as exciting and an adventure. Ambassador Zethkri accessed the classified Deathworld files with trembling digits. Earth's atmospheric composition alone should have been fatal to any complex life. Nitrogen and oxygen in concentrations that would cause explosive combustion in most species. The magnetic field fluctuations that would scramble neural pathways. The tidal forces from that massive satellite they called a moon. "Sir," his aide whispered urgently, "there's more. They're not using any protective suits or environmental controls we can identify. They appear to be thriving in those conditions." The holographic display zoomed in on the human vessel. Through the primitive, transparent aluminum viewing ports, they could see the creature called Jack moving freely, apparently unbothered by the cosmic radiation that would sterilize a Kethmaran in seconds. "Impossible," breathed Counselor Vexara. "How are they not dead?" Dr. Chen's voice crackled through the communications array. "Jack, we're showing some interesting readings from the surrounding space. Looks like there might be other signals out there." "Other signals?" Jack's pulse quickened with excitement rather than fear. "You mean we might not be alone?" The council chamber erupted in panicked chirps, clicks, and harmonic resonances. The human was excited by the prospect of encountering unknown alien life forms. Most species required years of psychological preparation and extensive safety protocols just to consider such contact. Ambassador Zethkri pulled up more data from Earth's surface observations. The images were nightmarish. Humans routinely exposing themselves to their star's deadly radiation for something they called recreation. They consumed plant matter that contained natural toxins as food. They deliberately introduced foreign pathogens into their bodies as medicine. They even engaged in physical combat with each other for sport. They're not just surviving their death world, he realized with growing horror. They're enjoying it. The recording showed humans diving into bodies of their corrosive dihydrogen monoxide, scaling vertical rock faces with minimal equipment, and voluntarily jumping from aircraft with only thin fabric to slow their descent. What the galaxy considered certain death, humans treated as leisure activities. "We need to establish communication protocols immediately," declared the council chairman, his voice harmonizing with barely controlled panic. "If these humans are capable of interstellar travel, we must assess the threat level." Back aboard Explorer 1, Jack was making his own discoveries. His long-range sensors had detected the Council's observation posts scattered throughout the system. Unlike the aliens, he wasn't terrified by the prospect of first contact. "Daisy, you're not going to believe this, but I think someone's been watching us." Dr. Chen's excitement was palpable through the comm system. "Watching us?" "Jack, this is incredible. We need to try to establish communication. Can you boost the transmitter?" Ambassador Zethkri watched in fascination and fear as the human began broadcasting on multiple frequencies, using mathematical sequences and basic physics principles, the standard protocol for first contact that had taken the Galactic Council centuries to develop. Somehow these Deathworld survivors had independently arrived at the same conclusion. "They're following proper first contact procedures," reported his aide, voice filled with disbelief. Despite having no prior knowledge of galactic standard protocols, the transmission from Jack was clear and methodical. Prime numbers, physical constants, basic chemical elements. But underneath the scientific data was something that made Ambassador Zethkri's sensory organs quiver, an unmistakable sense of joy and curiosity. The human wasn't afraid of the unknown. He was embracing it. "This is Jack Morrison of the human vessel Explorer 1, came the broadcast. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." As the translation echoed through the council chamber, a new understanding began to dawn on the assembled delegates. The humans hadn't conquered their death world despite its horrors. They had been shaped by them. Every impossible challenge their planet had thrown at them had only made them stronger, more adaptable, more curious about what lay beyond. "We're going to need a new classification system," whispered Counselor Vexara. Class 13. Deathworld survivors with interstellar capability and peaceful intentions. Ambassador Zethkri looked at the image of Jack Morrison floating confidently in his primitive vessel, and felt something he had never experienced before when contemplating humans. Not just fear, but a strange kind of respect. The galaxy would never be the same.